It was a late night in Rome. The city lights outside his window glittered like tiny stars, but inside the room, everything felt silent, almost suffocating. Can Yaman sat at his desk, a pen in his hand, an empty notebook before him. To the world, he was the strong, confident actor, adored by millions, chased by cameras, loved for his roles. But in that moment, he was not the man everyone thought they knew. He was just vulnerable, tired, lost. And so he began to write. The first words of his private diary were not about fame, not about work, not about the next big project. They were about her. About Demet. The one name that kept returning to him no matter how far he traveled, no matter how much time passed. He wrote, "I thought distance would heal me. I thought silence would free me. But the truth is, it only deepened my regret." Ken had built a life filled with noise, interviews, photo shoots, premieres, fan events. Every corner of his days seemed bright and glamorous. But inside, there was an emptiness that only one person could fill. And that person was no longer by his side. As he wrote, he admitted to himself what he never dared to say out loud. He regretted the way things had ended. He regretted not returning her calls that night when she reached out. He regretted every word left unsaid, every fight that could have been softened, every moment pride had been stronger than love. "People think I chose my career over her," he scribbled on the page. "But what they don't know is that I was scared. Scared of how much I loved her. Scared that if I gave in completely, I would lose myself. And now, I realize I lost something far greater. I lost us." The ink smudged slightly as his hand trembled. For Can, admitting regret was not easy. He was a man used to control, to discipline, to strength. But the diary became the one place where he could strip all of that away and face the truth. He remembered the first time he saw Demet smile during the filming of her Kensi Kuss. It wasn't in front of the cameras, it wasn't staged. It was real. A laugh that came from her soul, lighting up the entire set. "That was the moment I knew," he confessed on paper. "I knew she wasn't just a co-star. She was going to be the story I would never stop telling myself." But that story didn't end the way it was supposed to. Fame came, distance grew, choices were made, and suddenly, they were no longer walking side by side. Still, as he wrote, he realized something painful yet undeniable: she never really left him. Every role he played carried traces of her. Every love scene, every line about heartbreak, every tear shed for a script, it was her face that lingered in his mind. The diary was supposed to be a place of healing, but with each word, the wound felt deeper. He paused, looking at what he had written. And then, almost as if confessing to himself, he added one last line before closing the notebook for the night: "If I could go back to that night, I would pick up the phone. I would tell her I'm sorry. And maybe, just maybe, things would be different." The next night, Ken found himself unable to sleep. He tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling, but her face would not leave his mind. Eventually, he reached again for his diary. The lamp on his desk cast a soft golden light, and once more, the pen touched the paper. This time, he didn't start with regret. He started with memories. "I remember the smell of the coffee we shared on set," he wrote. "How she always added too much sugar and laughed when I teased her about it. I remember how we both hated early mornings, but the moment she stepped onto the stage, the whole place woke up. She had that kind of energy, like sunlight breaking through clouds." The diary became a window to the past. Ken recalled late-night rehearsals, stolen glances when no one was watching, the electricity between them that even the cameras couldn't capture fully. The world saw chemistry, he felt something far deeper. But alongside these tender memories came the heavier ones. "I remember the arguments too," he confessed. "The moments when pressure got the best of us. The times when I let my pride speak louder than my heart. I can still see the hurt in her eyes the night I walked away without saying goodbye. That look, it follows me. It's the one memory I wish I could erase, but it clings to me like a shadow." He leaned back in his chair, the pen still in his hand, the words spilling out like an unstoppable river. For the first time, Can admitted to himself that it wasn't just circumstances or careers that pulled them apart. It was him. His silence. His stubbornness. His refusal to admit vulnerability. Fame had demanded a version of him that looked untouchable, perfect, above emotion. But Demet never wanted that version. She wanted the real Ken, the man who laughed too loudly, who held her when the cameras were gone, who whispered promises in the quiet of the night. "I thought being strong meant never showing weakness," he wrote. "But now I understand, my weakness was not telling her that I needed her more than I needed anything else." His diary was no longer just paper. It was confession, release, punishment. Each line carried the weight of what was lost. He wrote about the way Demet's laughter echoed in his dreams, the way her absence made every victory feel incomplete, the way he sometimes caught himself reaching for his phone late at night, only to stop, because what could he possibly say now? The irony cut deep. He was adored by millions, yet the only person whose opinion still mattered most was the one who no longer stood beside him. He closed his eyes and remembered one particular night. They had wrapped filming late, exhaustion written all over their faces. But instead of heading home, they stayed, sitting together on a quiet corner of the set. Demet had leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering something so simple yet so unforgettable, "Don't ever let me go." And he hadn't answered. He hadn't promised. He had simply smiled, thinking the moment would last forever. Now, in his diary, years later, his hand trembled as he wrote, "Demet, if you ever read this, know that I never wanted to let you go. But I did. And it was the biggest mistake of my life." When he finally closed the diary that night, he didn't feel lighter. He felt the crushing weight of truth pressing harder on his chest. Because memories can be sweet, but when mixed with regret, they become chains that bind the soul. There is a page in Can's diary that looks different from the others. The ink is darker, as if pressed too hard. The edges of the paper are slightly crumpled, like they were clenched in a fist for too long. At the top of that page, he wrote a date, not the exact day, not the month, just a single line, "The night I didn't pick up." He doesn't need a calendar to remember it. His body remembers. The way his chest tightened. The cold sting in his fingers. The dull ache behind his eyes. He was in a hotel room after a late shoot, the kind that leaves silence echoing in your bones. Rome's night traffic murmured far below, a kind of distant sea. He dropped his head back against the headboard, still in costume, still wearing the mask of a man who never doubts. And then the phone lit up. Demet. The name on his screen was both a lifeline and a storm warning. He stared at it for a beat too long. It rang once. Twice. His heart raced at the rhythm of it. The third ring felt like a cliff edge. By the fourth, he was already negotiating with himself. "Not tonight. I'm exhausted. I'll call her when my mind is clear. I'll find the perfect words. She deserves better than this half-broken version of me." The phone stopped. Silence returned, sharp as glass. Seconds later, a message appeared, "Can we talk?" No accusation. No drama. Just 5 simple words with the weight of a world that had been theirs. He typed back nothing. He wanted to. He even pressed his thumb to the keyboard, felt the glow of the screen warm his skin. But then a knock sounded at his door, not fate, just the assistant with tomorrow's call sheet. The spell broke. He told himself he'd answer after. He told himself timing mattered. He told himself love could wait. By the time he closed the door again, the message had already become a monument. He could feel it standing there on the screen, still, unblinking, asking a question whose answer should have been so simple. The phone lit up one more time. Incoming call. Her name again. The sound felt different this time. Louder, closer, like the universe had chosen a ringtone that no one else could hear. His thumb hovered over the green button. He could picture her on the other end, The way she holds the phone slightly away when she's unsure, the breath she takes before she speaks, that soft, steadying inhale she always hoped he wouldn't notice. He let it ring. He let it pass. The call faded into a gray, unchangeable past. In the diary, he doesn't spare himself. I should have answered. It was that simple. A yes or no. A breath or a word. But pride is never silent, it whispers lies. It told me to wait, told me to control the moment, told me there would be another chance. There wasn't. Later that night, a voice message arrived. He didn't listen right away. He set the phone face down on the table, as if turning it over could turn fate itself. He paced the room. He drank water he didn't want. He watched a city that wasn't his fall asleep and wished it would tell him what to do. When he finally pressed play, the room felt too small to contain the sound of her voice. She didn't cry. That almost made it worse. She sounded brave, like someone trying to walk across a bridge she doesn't believe will hold. I don't want to fight, she said. I just want you to hear me. I don't know where we're going anymore. But I still want to talk to the real you. The real him. The one she always reached for when cameras were gone and the night had softened the edges of the day. The one who laughed too easily, who quoted movie lines at the wrong time, who held on a second longer than necessary. He wanted to be that man again, not the hard, polished version the world demanded. He saved the message. He didn't answer. He tells the diary that he tried to justify it. He told himself he needed a perfect apology. He told himself she deserved a grand gesture, not just a tired phone call from a hotel bed at midnight. He told himself he would write something beautiful, something worthy of the mess they'd made of love. But love has never asked for perfect. It has only ever asked for present. I mistook silence for strength, he writes. I thought not reacting was control. But silence is not control, it is absence. And that night, I chose absence. He remembers the sun coming up like a verdict, washing the room with a pale, merciless light. He remembers fumbling for the phone, the screen too bright, his eyes stinging. Her message was still there, a small island in an ocean of notifications. He pressed his lips together and finally typed, "Can we talk later?" He sent it. It felt like throwing a pebble after a ship that had already left the harbor. She didn't reply. Not then. Not that day. Not for a while. In the diary's margin, in handwriting smaller than the rest, he squeezes in a confession he cannot shake. I had 1,000 chances to say I'm sorry in 1,000 small ways. I waited for one perfect moment, and lost them all. He starts listing the details he's terrified to forget. The way her voice catches on certain consonants. The way she used to push her hair back when she was nervous. The way she always stood with her weight on one foot, like she was ready to move if the moment asked her to. The gentleness. The stubbornness. The hope. There is a line at the bottom of the page, almost an oath, I will never forgive myself for that night. Not because it was the end, but because it could have been the beginning again. He closes the diary there, not because he said enough, but because there are pains that only silence can hold. He presses his palm against the cover, as if he could make the paper pulse with a heartbeat. Outside, Rome is waking, coffee machines hissing, birds tracing bright threads across the sky, people calling to each other in doorways. Life insists on moving. He doesn't move. He whispers to no one, to the empty room, to the girl who once asked him not to let go, I heard you. I still hear you. I'm sorry I answered too late. Some parts of his diary looked less like writing and more like open wounds. Words scratched out, ink smeared, sentences broken in half. These were not pages for anyone's eyes. Yet they held his truest confessions. If only I had called her back. If only I had swallowed my pride. If only I had told her that she was all I needed. If only, over and over, those words filled the page. Sometimes I wonder if she waited longer than she should have, he wrote. Sometimes I wonder if she fell asleep with the phone in her hand, thinking I didn't care. The truth is, I cared too much. And that fear destroyed everything. The diary became a conversation with Demet that never happened. He poured out everything. Demet, if this page ever reached you, I would tell you I never stopped. You are in every applause I can't enjoy, in every role that feels incomplete. I thought I could build a life out of silence. But silence became my prison. The deepest confession came next. I regret not the fights, not the mistakes. I regret only letting you believe you weren't the most important thing in my life. The final page of his diary was written weeks later. No dates, no names. Just words, this will be my last page. Not because I have nothing left to say, but because nothing I write will change that night. The lines were softer this time, not sharp wounds, but quiet acceptance. He admitted regret was not something you escape. It's something you learn to live beside. And then his final confession, Demet, if life ever gives us another chance, I won't wait. I won't hide. I won't let pride steal my voice. But if that day never comes, know this, my greatest role, my greatest love, my greatest regret, will always be you. He set down the pen. Closed the diary. For the first time in years, he cried without holding back, not as a star, not as an actor, but as a man who finally told the truth, even if only to himself. The city outside continues its rhythm. Life moves forward. But inside that room, with that diary closed, one chapter ends, not with closure, but with honesty. And honesty, even wrapped in regret, is sometimes the only kind of peace a heart can find.